Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's belkizbeauty. In today's video, I'm going to be filming a full coverage acne foundation routine. Sadly, I have been dealing with acne for about 5 to 6 years, so during this time frame, I have picked up some tips and tricks, and I've worked out what works best for my skin. So I thought I would film a video and share my tips and tricks with you guys in hope that maybe it would help some of you guys in how to cover yours and how to feel more confident. So if you guys would like to see how I cover my acne and how I get this full coverage look, then just keep on watching. So before we start this video, I just wanted to give a little disclaimer. I'm not making this video to say, this is how you need to do your foundation routine and this is how you should cover your acne. Honestly, there's no right or wrong with makeup. It's all about personal preference. I just wanted to make this video in hopes to at least help one person in covering their acne, or maybe you're not happy with your foundation routine and you wanted to try something different. I know that having acne, sometimes you can feel like you're all alone and you're isolated, so I just wanted you guys to know that honestly, acne, it's a normal part of life. Everyone deals with it and you're not alone. For many years, I've been struggling with my acne and feeling like shit all the time, but I'm slowly getting over it and learning to just live with it. So apologies if this video is really long, but I just wanted to talk to you guys and thoroughly explain what I do and why I'm doing each step. So the first step of any foundation routine is skincare. You can't expect your foundation to look amazing and flawless if you don't have proper skincare. So what I mean by this is don't go and do your makeup and have last night's makeup still on your face. Make sure you cleanse and take off any makeup residue that may have been from the night before, etc. Make sure you cleanse and moisturize your face. That's really important because you're just going to have a nice clean canvas ready to go for your foundation. So the next step in foundation routine is primer. I know a lot of people say, oh, you don't need primer, primer's not important. And yeah, you can do your foundation with no primer, but honestly, I feel like primer does really make a big difference. The purpose of a primer is to prolong the wear of your makeup, and that means it's there to make your makeup last on longer. So if you are struggling with acne, obviously you want your makeup to last on all day. You don't want your foundation to start separating and smearing off in the middle of the day. That would probably be, a girl's worst nightmare. So that's why primers are really good, because it's going to make your makeup last on longer. There's so many foundations out there on the markets nowadays, like primers have just skyrocketed and there's so many different types. So that's why it's really good. If you have acne, I'm assuming you may have blackheads, you may have clogged pores, whiteheads, which is going to give the illusion of bigger pores and like holes on your face. Nowadays, there's so many amazing pore filling primers that are just going to they diminish the size of your pores, which is going to make your makeup look smoother and it's going to look more flawless. There is also green-based primers, and the green is going to counteract the redness, and if you have acne, you probably do have some redness. There's also hydrating and luminous primers. So say you may be on any acne medication or topical acne treatments which may be drying out and flaking out your skin, you can use a hydrating primer, and this is going to help reduce the flakiness and dehydration, which is then again going to help the way your foundation looks and make it look nicer. The same thing goes if you may have really oily skin, which may be why you're breaking out. There's mattifying primers which can help reduce the oil, and there's just so many primers out there that can help you with any skincare issue you may have or any skin concern. And the primers are just going to help with that skin issue you have, and it's going to make your foundation look more flawless. So I have no makeup on right now, so I'm looking really gross. So let's just get straight onto the video. So the primer I like to use is the Australia's Original Primer. I love this primer because it's good for both oily and dry skin. So during the seasons, my skin sometimes tends to become really oily and sometimes it feels a bit dehydrated. So I know that I can always use this primer throughout the whole entire year, and I don't have to worry about swapping in between primers. This primer also smooths out my face and just makes my foundation glide on a lot smoother. I'm just going to be applying some of this primer now. Okay, so now I'm moving along to the foundation. My hands down favorite foundation would have to be the Becca foundation. This is called the Ultimate Coverage Complexion Cream. This is a full coverage foundation. It doesn't have any SPF, so it won't create any white flashback, which can become really annoying. It lasts on all day. It has really good longevity. Some people like to apply their concealer first, and some people like to apply their foundation first. It's all about personal preference. What I have found has worked best for me is having a full coverage foundation, and what I like to do is I like to apply this full coverage foundation all over my face, just a very nice thin layer. And then after that, I'll see where I need any more coverage, which is usually all of my acne scars and any breakouts that I may have. I like to then go over that area with the foundation. And after I do that, I actually don't need any concealer. I don't need any concealer to hide any blemishes or anything because my foundation has done all of the work and has covered everything. I just feel like if I'm going to take my concealer and go everywhere and conceal each spot, firstly, it's going to take so much more time. Second of all, I'm just going to end up wasting product because I'm then just going to go over that concealer with my foundation. And obviously you're going to need to blend out your foundation or else it's going to look pretty gross. And then you're just going to end up moving and smearing all of that concealer that you've just worked so hard blending it out and applying it. So I feel like you're just kind of layering products like concealer, foundation, and I feel like doing it that way, it can make your face look more cakey. So instead of having like a light foundation that sort of won't really cover much and will just even out my skin tone and then going over that and concealing and spot concealing, I like just having a full coverage foundation. So when I apply, it's just going to cover everything. Now obviously if you apply a big thick layer, it is going to look a bit cakey and gross. So it's exactly like painting your nails, you know, you apply a very thin layer, you wait for it to dry, and then you apply another layer. Same thing with your foundation. I like to apply a thin layer all over my face, I'll blend it out, wait for it to dry a bit, and then I'll apply another layer. Then I'll go back and I'll see if there's any other areas that may need that extra coverage. Using a full coverage foundation as a foundation and a concealer, you're not going to be able to see where you've applied that concealer. Because obviously your concealer and your foundation, if you're not buying it from the same brand, they obviously will be a different color. And sometimes you can sort of see where you've applied that, you know, a little bit of concealer on that spot. Having the foundation as a concealer and foundation, it's just everything is going to look more seamless. You're not going to see any like spots of concealer that you applied. So my perfect shade that matches me perfectly is the shade Nude in this foundation. However, I am a little bit fake tan right now, so I'm a little bit darker. So I'm just going to apply this foundation, and if I need a darker one, I'll just go ahead and mix in my darker foundation. This foundation comes in a pump, which is another thing why I love it, because it's not messy. You just squeeze it out and you're good to go. What I like to do is rub in the products with my fingers. I don't like squeezing out then applying it straight to the skin, because then you're just going to have to buff it out more on the skin. If you warm up the products with your fingers, the heat of your fingertips is going to warm up the foundation and the product, and then you'll have less work to do on your face. So I like to work in small sections on my face. I don't like to smear it on everywhere because, as I said, this product does dry semi-matte. So if I apply it everywhere, it's just going to dry and then I won't have enough time to blend it out. What I'm doing here is I'm just pressing it into the skin. So I just have the products on my fingers and I'm just pressing it in and then just sort of like blending it out with my fingers. So I just applied a very thin layer of that and I blended it out. As you can see, my neck and face don't match exactly perfectly. So I'm just going back into the foundation. I'm taking a few shades darker. So as you guys saw, as I was applying my foundation, I was pressing it into the skin and kind of buffing and blending it out with my fingers. I wasn't just blending it out and sort of, you know, just going like this. If you're pressing it into the skin more, you're going to have more coverage as opposed to smearing it around. You're just going to end up losing the coverage and not getting as full of coverage as you can get. So to further blend out my foundation, I just like to use a sponge. Here I have the Real Technique sponge. This is really good. I love this one. I also have, you know, the Beauty Blender. Then there's, you know, the Chi Chi sponge. Honestly, any sponge that you like that works best for you, go ahead and use a sponge. Now I'm just going to press the product in. So as you guys can see, I'm literally pressing the sponge into my skin. I'm not going like this, I'm not buffing, I'm not blending it out, I'm pressing it into the skin. So by pressing it into the skin, you're not moving the foundation, so you are going to end up with a fuller coverage look, as opposed to if you blended it out and buffed it out, you're just sort of buffing away that product and you won't have that full coverage look. Also, by pressing it into the skin, this is going to make the foundation last longer because you're pressing it in and it's going to be fully sort of like, I don't know how to describe it, it's just going to be really immersed in your skin, do you know what I mean? Also, what I like to do is I like to get my oval brush and I like to blend my foundation down my neck and sort of up my hairline, so you can't really see any lines and you're not going to have a mask sort of look, which isn't pretty. Now, I do like using concealer, but I don't like using concealer to hide my blemishes. I'm going to be using some concealer underneath my eyes to highlight this area. So this way we're going to bring some life and some light back into the face, which is going to give a more sort of natural sort of look, as opposed to, you know, just really flat and one shade, which can sort of make you look a bit washed out. I'm just taking the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer and I'm just going to be applying this directly underneath my eyes in sort of like a triangle shape. Applying it in a triangle shape is also going to give the look of a more natural look, as opposed to just applying it right underneath there, because then you're just going to sort of be just really light and bright underneath there. Another thing I love to do that just sort of makes your face look more luminous and glowy is applying a liquid highlighter underneath your eyes, and this way you're just further highlighting that area, and I feel like it looks very natural and dewy and really radiant. I love doing this, but if you guys have blackheads or if you have any breakouts in this area, do not apply a highlighter there, because highlighting, you're going to be drawing attention to that area, and obviously if you have breakouts or any blemishes, you don't really want to be drawing attention there, you want to be concealing that area. So as you guys can see, I literally have like smaller than a pea size. You just really need a little bit of it because I don't want it to be, whoa, highlighting under there. I just wanted to give a sort of dewy, glowy look. So what I like to do first is just blend it out with my finger. So I'm just going back to my Real Technique sponge, and after I blended it out a bit with my fingers, I'm just going to get this sponge and just ounce it in. Okay, so now I'm just going to be setting my under eyes with their setting powder, but before you set your under eyes, make sure that you blend out your concealer properly, because if you already have creases underneath your eye from your concealer and then you apply the powder, it's just going to end up looking more creasy. So make sure you blend it out really well and blend it out so there's no creases, and then set your under eye. This way you won't end up with any creasing throughout the day. Taking that same sponge, I'm going to be setting my under eyes, and I'm using the RCMA No Color Powder. I take the more smoother side of the sponge and I just dab it in there, and then I'm just going to be applying this directly underneath my eyes. And then if I have any excess product, I'll just apply it onto my nose because I do get really oily there. Okay, so I'm just going to dust away any excess powder from underneath the eyes. Okay, to set the rest of my face, today I'm using the Becca Mineral Powder Foundation. When I set my face, I don't like using a translucent powder because a translucent powder is obviously translucent. It's not going to give you any added coverage. That's why I like to use a powder foundation, because one, it's going to set your face, it's going to make your makeup matte, it's going to make it last longer, but in doing this, I'm also getting extra coverage. It is very important to set your face with a powder because you are making it matte. Throughout the day, your foundation can get oily, it can smear off. If you have acne and you have any blemishes, if your face is sort of shiny and oily because you haven't set your foundation, you're just gonna sort of enhances it, and you're gonna draw attention to that area. If it's matte, you're sort of like hiding it in a way. I don't really know how to explain it, but I'm sure you get what I mean. Like if you see someone who hasn't set their face, they look really sort of shiny, they may tend to look oily, and you're sort of just gonna look at their face, and anywhere that looks really shiny, your eyes is automatically gonna look there. So that's why setting your face and making it matte, if you have acne, is very important, because you will be creating a matte canvas and you're sort of like hiding any blemishes that you may have. Also, what brush that you use to set your foundation with is very important. If you use a brush that is less dense, you are going to get less coverage. If you use a foundation that is more dense, it will give you more coverage. I love setting my foundation with a flat top kabuki brush. Here I have two to show you as example. So these ones are less dense, and what I mean by less dense is they're really sort of like fluffy. So if I go like this, as you can see, the bristles are moving a lot because it's not as dense and it's really like fluffy. Same with this brush, as you can see, and I'll just show you example to a more dense brush. So as you can see, the bristles aren't really moving, the bristles are more shorter and they're more put together. As you can see, the brush is more dense. Same with this brush. As you can see, I've hit pan on this powder because I absolutely love it. It's really good. I would recommend it if you guys are in for a new powder, or if you want something a bit less pricey, definitely check out the Australis Fresh and Flawless. That's my favorite hands down powder that I use every single day. You don't want to be setting it and buffing it like that because you're going to be moving your foundation and you're just going to be moving all of that hard work that you just did in blending it out and making it look good. So what you want to do is you want to press the product into the skin. Just like I was doing before and how I was explaining to you guys before, by pressing the product into the skin, you are going to end up with a more fuller coverage, and this is also going to prolong the wear of your foundation because you are pressing it into the skin. So it's not going to budge, it's not going to move anywhere. These two combinations are absolutely amazing together, flawless, last all throughout the day, won't budge. I've been using this powder and foundation for almost a year now and I have absolutely nothing bad to say about it. I've used them on numerous occasions. I used it for a wedding, did my makeup, and I used this powder and foundation, and I had to have my makeup done at like 7 AM and then I didn't take it off till about 1 AM. And this was a day wedding, so it was during the day, out in the sun. It was actually really hot that day, so I was sweating, and my makeup at the end of the day, my foundation didn't budge. It looked absolutely the same as to when I first applied it. So you guys do the math. How long is that? That's about 17 hours. Like, that is a long time. Like, you shouldn't be wearing your foundation for 17 hours, but... Okay, so I just went ahead and finished doing the rest of my makeup off camera. So now I'm moving along to the last step of my foundation routine, is setting spray. I like to use two different setting sprays for two different reasons. Here I have the NYX Dewy Finish Setting Spray. This setting spray is going to give a less cakey look. Because we've applied so many stuff to our face and we have a really matte look. This is going to give a less mattified look, a less cakey look, and it just gives a more skin-like texture and look to the face. So the next setting spray I like to use is the Urban Decay All Nighter Setting Spray. So for my foundation routine, obviously if I'm doing a full coverage, full-on look, then I want my makeup to last, which is why I like to use this setting spray, because I know whenever I use it that it is going to make my foundation last on all day. And it smells really good as well. So this is the finished look. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do really appreciate it. I hope you guys liked this video and maybe got some tips and tricks on how to cover your acne. If you guys like this video, then please give it a thumbs up. And I hope to see you guys all in my next video.